Good afternoon, Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show, 406, live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here. We're having a Health Focus Wednesday here. We want to welcome in Dr. Adam Susmarski. He is a sports spine and rehabilitation specialist with LECOM Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. Doc, appreciate you coming on. Thanks for joining us here.
Thanks for having me today.
I really appreciate it. So we're a family show. We like to get origin stories. How did you come up, and what got you interested in this kind of medicine here?
Yeah, of course. I'm actually originally from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
I went to high school at Cathedral Prep, and then undergraduate school at Gannon, and then I went to medical school at Michigan State.
Did you do like actual pre-med, or did you specialize in like physical therapy? Or?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I was partly pre-med, but my major when I was at Gannon University was kinesiology, and so that was really a good fit for someone who has been interested in sports medicine since I was in high school. And so it was just kind of like a natural progression for me.
Did you play a sport at prep, or?
Yeah, I played soccer at prep and at Gannon as well. Yep.
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's fantastic. And Michigan State, right?
Yep, then went to Michigan State for medical school. Around the time that I went to medical school, I also joined the Navy, and so did some additional training after medical school at the University of Pittsburgh, at the Naval Academy, and at Cornell. And then I spent 15 years active duty in the Navy, and then I was with my wife's family the last 5 years out in Iowa, and then that situation changed a little bit, so we decided, we have 2 little kids now, so we decided to come back where we have a little bit of family support and back to some familiar surroundings. Although 20 years later, Erie is a little bit different. Previously we only came back for about a week a year, like a week and a year around in the summer, and so getting used to the place. It's only been 3 weeks, so yeah.
Oh, you're brand new back.
Yeah, just got here 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. What's the biggest remarkable change for you as a kid who grew up at prep to what we have now? I mean,
yeah, I think some of the stuff, when we were looking at some place to live, I think I grew up kind of more closer to West Mill Creek by the airport, and we're living kind of more southern part of town, and so it's interesting and cool to be and explore a different part of Erie and see everything that's changed in 20 years. I think a lot of the stuff down by the Bayfront's really exciting, and even the stuff down here by your office is all fairly brand new to me.
It really is. Yeah. Where's your practice at? Where's your office?
Yeah, our sports medicine clinic is located in the Wellness Center, which is on Peach Street there, right across from the big LECOM, behavioral health and senior living center.
Okay. Have they reopened the pool yet, or is that still?
Yeah, I'm new, and I know this is the question I think everybody asks.
Is that what everybody's asking you? Seriously?
Yeah, I've never been in the gym when it was in its heyday. It sounds like, 'cause it sounds like maybe during COVID. I don't know the sure details. During COVID, it closed, maybe other gyms have, and I think everybody that asks me, when I tell them we work, the sports clinic is on the 3rd floor there, wants to know when the gym's reopening. I do know, I don't know if it's a secret, but they are remodeling everything since I've been there, so it seems like
that they're making their way to.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's true or not, and that is not gospel. So
well, again, they have a beautiful pool, and so
the whole place is awesome. Looks like state of the art, everything.
Exactly.
Multiple.
Well, that's what the Freddies do. The Freddies are all about best.
That's
best
awesome.
Practice.
Yeah, I'm
right?
excited to see if it opens or when it does open because I'm a morning gym person, so that'd be great to be able to just go there early, work out, and walk upstairs to work. That would be
that would be
all
amazing,
in one. Yeah.
Talk about being a Navy doctor, because again, thank you for your service.
My pleasure. Yeah.
That is a great route to getting real world experience, different than maybe if you were, an intern at, let's say, a Pittsburgh hospital or something like that. Yep. Can you talk about that experience of yours?
Yeah. Any specific questions?
Well, were you deployed? Were you on a ship at one point?
Yeah, all of those things. Yeah, I think that I think a few things. I think that a interest or devotion, service, probably is deep in that, right? And it doesn't have to necessarily mean military service, but giving back in the community, I think, is something that was ingrained probably since high school at prep, right? Where you kind of have to do some like mandatory service hours, and you're not really sure whether you want to, and how quick can you get them done, and what's the most entertaining way to do that, right? And then I think it kind of grows on you, and you understand like why you're being made to do that. Does that make sense? And I think that there's probably some things you learn and get from being around people and helping them, and that you probably don't get anywhere else. And I think that,
were you Navy ROTC at some point?
No,
or?
no.
Okay, so
I came from a military family. Other than my like parents, a lot of my family members have been in or were in the military, and so I think that growing up around my grandparents that had served was really helpful for me, and my uncle did as well. And so I think those things probably played a large role, and had some mentors that were prior or current military going through schooling, and so I think that was really helpful. I think that what you had mentioned is it's not the normal route, right? So like I think you kind of alluded to it. Normally you'd go to medical school, do intern plus or minus residency, plus or minus a fellowship, right? And you get very academic and planned out. I think that for better or worse, in the military, there's a lot more divergent paths, right? You can go straight through like that, but there's also opportunity, which sometimes is maybe not for everybody, but maybe the opportunity when you're a little bit younger to be able to do those things, right? So I had at one point in the span of 3 years had spent probably a good 2 or 2.5 of it on deployments overseas, and so
kind of like as a generalist, or were you able to specialize in the?
We did some additional specialized training in like what's called operational medicine, so trauma type of stuff. A little bit more like infectious disease type of things to prevent people. Like we spent the better part of a year in Africa, and so preparing 1,000 people to go to Africa to ensure that we don't get things like malaria, which isn't a typical. If you go at LECOM, I'm sure it's part of the curriculum, but it's probably not a highlight because we don't get malaria in Erie, Pennsylvania, maybe ever, right? And then when you go overseas in some of the more remote areas in places like Africa or Asia, there are a lot of countries where it's a real threat, right? And if someone or all of the group gets malaria, we're not very effective at whatever our job is.
Right. I mean, again, it's kind of your responsibility to aid the warfighting, the warfighting naval rank and file, and that encompasses everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it is mechanical, like your specialty in sports medicine, or like you say, infectious disease or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that the interest or background in musculoskeletal or sports medicine stuff was really helpful too, because that's a lot of it, right? I think that those interests and being interested in that type of variety of medicine early was helpful, and being able to have those experiences. It is not normal to be able to spend 12 months in Afghanistan or 12 months in Africa or have those experiences through your normal medical. It's not a normal medical route, right? And I think that those experiences you have were priceless, right? It's a different route, right? So it breaks up the normal training, which has its pluses and minuses, but I think that it's sometimes when you're very academic for a while, to get a break and do things hands-on job training and then go back to academics is sometimes a hard in and out for folks. I think that, but I think it was an awesome experience. I think also practicing essentially what's called primary care medicine, more like you said, generalist family practice doctor type of stuff, with those few specialized training of trauma, emergency medicine things, and then being able to apply that in a more subspecialty category of sports or spine medicine it allows you to look at the whole person a little bit broader too, right? Because normally that wouldn't be part. That's essentially doing multiple different extra trainings in there at the same time. So
it's interesting to me. I guess it's gonna be a goofy question, but I'm gonna ask you because I'm a goof. You probably encountered at one point or another a Navy SEAL, right? I mean, a high capacity officer. Would you have?
Yeah. Navy SEALs can be enlisted or
special
officers.
forces.
Yep, a lot. So my deployments were. I was never really asked before too. My deployments were all on the ground, which I think one of the exciting or interesting things about the Navy is that it's not all on ships, right? I think that, and you'd have to fact check this 100%, but I'm pretty sure after the first Top Gun, the Air Force recruits had notably increased, and it was a Navy Air movie. And so I think that a lot of that stuff can be those myths or those confusing facts, right? And so the nice thing about the Navy is that you get that wide breadth of stuff, right? So the Navy has people flying planes, driving ships, right, being on the ground. We're also, from a medical standpoint, take care of the Marine Corps as well, which has their own variety of subcategories of things they do. And so that large breadth gives you a lot of opportunities of things you're interested in, including a lot of like special operations things. And so a lot of my stuff was on the ground with the Marines, or with what is called construction battalions, or CBs, as they're like kind of a more well-known name and stuff. And so I think that those opportunities sometimes lend towards a variety of experiences. And I think that people sometimes say the Navy is, an acronym for never again volunteer yourself. And I sometimes, or all the time, seem to have the opposite of that personality and raise my hand a lot. And I think that, as you had alluded to, sometimes it gets you into things you're interested in, and sometimes it gets you into some unique opportunities. And so at times during deployment or stateside, I think that those experiences and that willingness to do those things allows you to be a part of some really cool things.
I would think that, if you have, whether it is in your deployment or in your regular practice here with sports medicine, when you have, let's say, a really high capacity physical person, somebody who really is trying to stay fit or get fit, you could get injured as you're trying to stay fit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that really lends itself to your kind of work,
The military, I think, was very similar to practicing sports medicine on a team, right? There's, instead of a head coach, there's a commanding officer. Instead of like an offensive coordinator on the football team, there's an operations officer. And then there's like the position players, and everybody has their kind of rank and file, just like a sports team does. And that reporting process is the same. And I think that whether you're in the military, whether it's covering an actual sports team, a school, or a professional team, or also like just people that are doing an occupational job that's physical, those are all like athletes, right?
Sure.
There's a different way to like look at it. There might be a different term. Or
if you're lifting drywall every day, all day,
your shoulder probably looks not much better than somebody throwing a million pitches a day too, right? And so like, and those people, it's the same thing, right? It's your livelihood of being able to help somebody get back to the things they enjoy doing or rely on doing to like either for fun or for like to actually make their living, right? And so if that guy that you're talking about that's trying to lay drywall is getting paid per job he finishes, if he can't get back to work because his shoulder hurts and somebody isn't able to determine what bothers him or give him enough treatment or the right treatment options, he's out of his job, right? And the same thing if you're pitching for the Yankees, right? If your shoulder hurts and you can't get back, you're out of your job too. So I think they're very similar. They're different jobs, obviously, but I think the parallels are pretty similar.
We're talking to Dr. Adam Susmarski. He is brand new to LECOM Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. We're going to get to our topic here after learning a little bit about him, about back-to-school sports and good health. And be with us here. We've got about 2-minute break, and we'll be back at it here on Talk Erie. We're learning about sports medicine and an Erie boomeranger, Dr. Adam Susmarski. You said you grew up near the airport?
Yep. Yeah. I like that term boomerang. I'm going to use that.
Yeah. And you went to Cathedral Prep. What year did you graduate?
2002.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. That's amazing. You've had quite a career since. I want you to, so you played soccer.
Yeah.
Think about coming up at both Prep and Gannon, playing soccer, and just kind of the routine of getting ready for the season, maintaining health during the season. There's a lot of kids, a lot of parents that are, I'm sure overly worried about, their kids' knees and, safety and all that stuff. What's a good approach? I know we're already past summer, but let's get people into the fall here of best practices, if you would.
Yeah, I think some of the things come to mind for preparing for like fall camp, like the beginning of sports season or soccer season was a fall sport is somewhere between like making sure you're properly building up to what your goal is for the year. I think that's very similar to when we were talking about in the military, somebody going to boot camp. If you show up kind of green and you haven't done the prep work, I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging. Some of the things that then come up are things we talk about are like heat exhaustion categories, right? And then also repetitive stress injuries, things like stress injuries or things like tendon injuries or muscle injuries. And I think a lot of those things, nothing's perfect from a prevention standpoint, but being able to like build up to those things are good, and keeping some of the highlights in mind as well. I think.
So are you talking about like stretching? Are you talking about muscle building?
Yeah, I think that you had mentioned like thinking about when I was back in school as well. I think one of the things that's always been there is almost all the time someone's going to give you some type of preparation to build you up, so that you don't show up and have to run 5 miles. You never ran a mile before, right? And so, or you have to do 1,000 push-ups and you never done any push-ups. So some type of progressive workup to get there, and ensuring that you're kind of keeping up on that and not cramming for the test at the last minute. If coach gives you 12 weeks of a build-up, trying to fit it all in the last week is probably not prudent, right?
So that'd be good for winter sports right now, like swimming and basketball or whatever.
Exactly, yeah. And doing the same for winter and spring sports. I think that the other things that have come a long way since I've been in school are like health and nutrition type of things that obviously bridges the gap for everything that we talk about, but ensuring that you're eating correctly and making sure that you're eating for what fits best for your sport. I think that previously, maybe when I was in school, from what I know, is that most of us were like, we just want to eat healthy, and no one's 100% sure what that was, right? Or eating healthy was the same for me as it was for the lineman on the football team or the cross country runner, et cetera. And I think now we have enough programs and enough advancement in nutrition that it can be as granular as if you're at a Division I school and you're on the swim team, for example, as you brought up here in the wintertime. If you're an endurance swimmer versus a sprint swimmer, when you come out, the nutritionist is going to hand you different food, right? Here's your first set of food for you who might swim a couple miles. I swim 100 meters or 25 meters. I'm going to get a different packet of food to eat. Even though we're both swimmers, we're both trying to eat healthy and perform well. Those needs from a nutrition standpoint are different, right? Those are different from a hydration standpoint. And so I think those advancements are really important, and I think that that's something to keep in mind, that while we do want to eat healthy, we want to make sure we're eating healthy and what's appropriate for our sport, right?
When you were playing soccer, did you carb load, let's say like the cross country kid would carb load? Yeah, I mean, you hear about like the big spaghetti dinners the night before the big cross country race, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys do that in soccer or not so much?
Yeah, I feel like it was probably pretty normal if we were going to have like a team dinner that had happened at an Italian restaurant. I think that's about right. But I think that, like, just like we were saying though, I mean, not everybody knew what to eat, right? Like, is it right to eat, like if you're there like eating pasta, are you supposed to have the meat sauce or not? Like, are you supposed to be eating the chicken or not, right? And like, should that depend on what position you play and what your goals are and what the sport is? I think that makes a big difference. And I'm not sure we knew that, or if we did, no one filled me in. You know what I mean?
What about like some of these modern energy drinks, or wherever Gatorade and all the other drinks are at these days? It seems like there's a lot of processed garbage out there.
That's right.
What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think from like the drinks, I think are very similar to the last comment, is that you want to make sure we're like not just taking in the like trendiest new thing, right? And then we're taking in the thing that's appropriate for us. And so again, if you're on the football team and I'm on a soccer team and you're a lineman and I'm like an outside midfielder, like we're gonna have different energy needs, right? And so like to make sure you're taking the post-workout stuff post-workout, and make sure you're doing the stuff for an endurance athlete versus a strength athlete, right? And anaerobic versus aerobic. So I think those things are like really important to keep in mind. And you're right, some of those things, there's hidden ingredients in there, right? Like when you think sports strength, I think the assumption sometimes is that like, well, I play sports, so it's really healthy for me. And not all of them are very healthy for you, right? And so I think those are helpful too. And when we talk about heat exhaustion, there's sometimes hidden things in there that make you feel better that might not be good for you training-wise, right? And so things that might increase your risk from a heat standpoint or heat injury might be, and some of those drinks have caffeine in it, and that might not be, it might help you pump you up and get a little bit more awake, but it might also decrease your threshold from having a heat injury, right? And so same thing with some supplements or over-the-counter medicines. If you have allergies or you're not feeling well or getting like a cold, I think that maybe running those through your athletic trainer or your team physician or your primary care doctor to ensure you're taking the right medicines to help you feel better, but not putting you at risk for a different injury would be really helpful as well.
I got to ask you about this huge craze with protein.
Yeah.
And protein drinks or total protein regimens.
Yeah.
How does that fit in a sports medicine context, if you would?
Yeah, I think a few things. So the same things account for different athletes to have different protein requirements. But then the other thing I think that's worth bringing up, because we've talked about supplemental nutrition here a couple times, is that if we're going to take supplements over the counter, there's been a lot of great studies to show that the supplements you're buying over the counter don't always have what's advertised in them, right? They don't have the same regulating bodies. And so there are some opportunities there to ensure that you are getting the right or closer to the right things in your supplements. And so there's websites out there called, one for example is NSF certified, and so if your supplements have that stamp on them, or when you go on the website they're listed on that website, there's at least some governing body assuring that the parts that are in your supplements are what's supposed to be in there, right? And so we all seen the things where you've like maybe read about your favorite athlete that says, I thought I was just taking a protein drink, and that might have been what was on the label, but what was in there wasn't in there, right? And so I think that if you're to ensure that you don't have a problem with maybe if you're an aspiring Olympic athlete or you're in college or high school where you're getting random drug tests, to ensure that you don't accidentally have an abnormal drug test when you're trying to do the right things, to ensure that you're getting the supplements from the right place. And I think that's a good way to ensure that, and then ensuring that you're taking the right intake nutrition-wise for your specific sport or even position.
Is there such a thing as too much protein? I got like 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's okay. I think that there's too much protein depending on what your position or requirements are.
Because your body has to process all that.
Different athletes may need more protein than carbs or fats, and that build or that breakdown depends on the athlete or the position. Correct. Yep.
We're talking to Dr. Adam Susmarski from LECOM Health. He's new to the LECOM Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. We're kind of getting a take on good health for your children in school. Stay with us. More ahead after the news on Talk Erie. The doctor is in. It's the Joel Natale Show, a Wednesday health focus from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State. Adam Susmarski, he is a sports spine and rehabilitation specialist with LECOM Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine right there in the LECOM Medical Fitness and Wellness Center. And I want to kind of go through now, maybe, as folks are navigating, again, and we're kind of keeping it to high school and college and middle school, whatever. But the kids are competing in football, right? They're competing in soccer. I think we have girls volleyball going on. I mean, these are the typical fall sports. And then training right now are for winter sports, basketball, swimming, and some of the other sports, indoor track, and then the spring sports will be after February or something like that. Let's talk about some common injuries that happen in the fall here. And again, maybe there is no such thing, but if you're playing football, gosh, there's knees, there's toes, there's fingers.
Yeah,
it's all the extremities.
That's
seems
right.
To be.
Yeah, I think that maybe some of the common injuries we talk about in the fall, but year round, those repetitive stress injuries, like you said, like tendons, ligaments, knees, joints, stuff like that. I think that sports-related concussion has been a more and more like hot topic over the last 10 years.
Have we been able to make any progress, especially in high school football? Like you're not allowed to do anything with your helmet, basically, right? I mean,
yeah, it's definitely a lot more restricted, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot more like guidance and I think overall our knowledge of sports-related concussion is like drastically improved in 10 years. I think that when I was at the Naval Academy, I was the chair of the Concussions Center of Excellence, and we were one of 25 or 26 schools across the country that were part of what's called the CARE Consortium, which has been responsible for the large majority of sports-related concussion research throughout the world and had a big impact on the most recent consensus statement. And I think that just in that time period from when I got involved in like 2016 or 17, so about 9 or 10 years ago, the graph in which the amount of sports-related concussion literature and knowledge that's been out there is like a complete 90-degree angle, right? And so I think that the days of having a head injury and being what used to be called cocooning, which was like somebody taking you in a dark room and leaving you there till you feel better, are gone, right? And the most recent literature over the last 10 years is that actually early activity in a safe, progressive manner, controlled progressive manner is maybe a better term, is actually a lot healthier for your brain physically and cognitively, and allows for you to recover better and quicker and safer. And so,
should a parent be asking, about the training staff? Let's say, in a decent sized, high school football team. I mean, the trainers have to stay on their game, right? They need to know this new stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I think that one of the best things about sports medicine is everything is a team sport. And for someone who grew up like in the military and playing sports, I think that's like one of the things that's really exciting about it, is that not all aspects of life or sport or medicine is like has that team approach to it, but sports does, right? We have to work together with our physical therapy, occupational therapy colleagues, athletic training colleagues, like I said, like the operational officer or commanding officer, just like the head coach or an assistant coach, and along with the athlete or the service member to ensure that we're meeting everybody's goals and getting people back to the thing they enjoy doing. And so the athletic trainer is certainly like going to spend a lot more time with the individual athlete or the family or the coaching staff, and is a wonderful like first resource and maybe ultimate resource, because they're very I used to be the athletic medical director for an athletic training program, a master's program, and what an underserved, like an underappreciated group.
Yes,
they go through a lot of training, and a lot of them when they come out are like ready. I mean, their knowledge is amazing, and so they are an untapped resource that if you do have questions for, that are typically always around, right? If you're even, like you said, like middle to even a small high school football team probably has an athletic trainer there at every practice and at the games, and probably knows your child like really well, right? They get to spend time with people more than anything. If there's ever a question, especially like in a sports-related concussion, where knowing somebody's baseline, like how they normally act or behave, are they normally shy, are they normally talkative, the athletic trainer knows that. They spend 12 hours on the bus with them, right? They spend 4 hours a day in
they could
practice.
Really kind of, sometimes the athlete themselves, I mean, you're talking about 15-year-old kid, they may not even understand what they're feeling. Like they might be feeling either a little woozy or maybe having hard to
100%.
focus.
This is a team effort. I think that at the Naval Academy, part of our education was speaking with all the professors and deans. And once we were able to have that team and on our board, we had some of the provosts and deans. And it was amazing how many times I would get an email from a teacher, like a physics professor, and go, hey, Joel's not looking good. He normally talks. He's normally answering all the questions. He's had his head down. If I ask him something, he snaps at me. He's normally the kindest, most interactive child. And then they asked, then the professor knows, like, hey, maybe I should ask more questions. And then they felt more comfortable being like, hey, what's going on? And be like, man, at rugby practice yesterday, I hit my head and I just don't feel right. And then they know, hey, Dr. Susmarski, hey, here's this young man. He's awesome. Midshipman Joel just is doing great. I think he might have hit his head last night and didn't know who to ask or who to talk to, and he seems different. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's just having a bad day, and then when he comes down, there's something else going on. Mom's sick, girlfriend, something like that. But a lot of times it gets them in the right place, and I think that if you don't have those people to speak up, and I think as sports-related concussion education has improved, we get more and more consults from a teammate or a coach. And 20 years ago, no chance I was getting a consult from a physics professor at a college, right? Or like a coach that was going to speak up and be like, this person doesn't look like their normal self.
Wow. Talk about one of the other, you mentioned heat exhaustion and things. And here we are, we're week 5 for high school football. It's going to be 80 degrees Friday.
It's going to be hot.
So that's going to be hot.
Yeah.
So again, what are good protocols? What should parent, not that I want you to be a helicopter parent, but being informed is not a terrible thing, right? I mean,
absolutely.
You should be, water breaks or whatever. What do you
I think some of the symptoms
there?
to look out for are when we talk about things that are changing to hitch off are very similar to concussion things. People who don't seem like themselves, so if they look a little confused, if maybe they're persistently nauseous or vomiting, might be something that would tee off.
Like
there's a lot of overlap and
exhaustion,
stuff.
right?
Yep, but I think that some of those cognitive, those physical changes where you just don't seem like yourself, not answering questions, seem confused, or things that kind of tee those things off, or people are getting lightheaded or passing out or something like that, are all things that probably need at least further investigation from their athletic trainer before they continue activity. I think the problem with heat exhaustion is that if it progresses or if it becomes heat stroke, is that it can be fatal, right? And those are the stories that we all see and hear, no matter, it doesn't seem no matter what, like every summer leading into the fall, where there's somebody has an unfortunate instance where they pass away in the football field or pass away in the soccer field, right?
We lost somebody at the half marathon this summer.
Yeah.
Right on Presque Isle. It's
That's
insane,
a shame, right? And I think that doing the best you can to avoid those things, or some of the things we mentioned earlier, like you said, you want to make sure you're hydrated, that you have the proper nutrition, that you avoid things that might decrease your threshold from having an injury from a heat exhaustion, things like caffeine, different types of medicines, which I think would be reasonable, like I said, to run those things by your athletic trainer or your primary care doctor or your team physician to ensure there's not an ingredient in there that's actually might make you feel better from your allergies, but not make you feel better from a heat standpoint. And then I think that we have a lot more education on what to do with those athletes, right? If somebody's not looking good or feeling good, there's a very immediate need to put that person in cold water. And so you'll see a lot on the sidelines now that I don't feel like was like that when I was growing up, but maybe not. Maybe I wasn't aware of what was happening, but almost always now on the sidelines at football games or anything that's like a hot event, like a race, there's multiple different venues of which we can drop people in cold water immediately.
Like an ice bath, or
it can be done in some of the groups that go around teaching about this stuff from a sports medicine standpoint. It doesn't have to be a fancy thing. It can sometimes just be like a kiddie pool or like a pet pool from PetSmart or something like that. And we just typically what we have is the tub filled up with water and then an ice access there. We use a thermometer to keep track of people's temperature and ensure they get cooled down before we send them to someplace like the hospital, right? And oftentimes if we can cool them down immediately, which is the correct treatment, not just shipping them away. So if someone got sick or you're concerned about their heat, you should dump them in some cold water and not just rush off. Don't just shove them in your car and rush off to the hospital, because immediate cooling is actually what's going to prevent long-term morbidity, mortality type of stuff. And so we want to prevent first, but if it does happen and you do see maybe an athlete, if you're a dad and you're coaching soccer in the summer and someone starts looking confused and they did not have a head injury, I think that trying to find somewhere to cool them down immediately would be a great plan.
Let's talk about cardiac issues. Again, I think every coach in Pennsylvania has to go through cardiac awareness. What was that? Sudden cardiac?
Cardiac death, is that what you're saying?
I think so. I think everybody needs to be certified for that.
Oh, CPR course. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, they have to have CPR, but also awareness of what to do. If somebody's exhibiting like cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do? What do you do about that? How is there any warning signs, or is that just something that just comes up?
I think there's quite the spectrum in there, and there are certainly maybe sometimes warning signs like chest pain and shortness of breath, or like feeling like your heart's beating maybe more fast or more abnormally or faster than it should be for the amount of exertion you're having. But sometimes it just happens. I think that the best prevention and maintenance for that is what you just mentioned. I think that the more people that we can get CPR or basic life support, is sometimes what it's called BLS certified, and I think that that's probably a skill set it's a biased answer from somebody in the medical field, right? Just doing sports stuff, but like that's something that maybe should be part of like high school or middle school. You know what I mean? Like that should be, I think, maybe a certification to get. And there are some high schools out there where that's part of it, where you can get.
You used to be able to get the Red Cross.
Yeah, that would be an awesome thing, right? If you're a babysitter, you know what I mean? Like all those things, that's a life skill that is applicable on the field and off the field.
Are there AEDs right there?
From a sports perspective, myself or the trainer usually always has one, and then the facilities usually have one as well.
Literally at the sideline.
Yep. Being part of the sports medicine program, one of the things we have to develop before every athletic contest or race is what's called emergency action plan, and part of that is like knowing where the AED is and having it available. Also knowing like where the local hospital is at, who to call, is somebody else on site, like is there an EMT at the football field or not, or what the response time is and things of that nature. And so I think having an AED is really important. The things that we run into a lot is you probably can't have enough AEDs, and they're not inexpensive. And so,
they're a grand piece or whatever,
$1,000 or $2,000, which is not great for a school or an organization that's like tight on money, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we kind of went the spectrum of what could be real catastrophic, but also what could be catastrophic is an actual break of your extremities, or a sprain, or like you say, ligament pull, or blowing your ACL or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of that stuff sometimes are preventable, right? Is that strength training? How are we doing on strength training in our high schools and colleges that you think, anyway?
Yeah. So I just want to go back real quick.
Yes.
Because I think I was on the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee in Iowa, and a lot of the barriers we ran into is cost, right? So you mentioned
how
much
AEDs,
an AED costs or equipment to cool people down.
Yeah.
We had come up with this list that's available online of places that provide grant money, that you can apply for grant money, or places that might be able to provide some of these pieces of equipment for cheaper or different costs. And so I think that if you're at a school or part of a sports organization, you're like, we don't have $2,000. We don't have $20 to get somebody a new pair of shin guards. I think that like maybe before we just cross it off, it might be worth looking into some of those things, because while you may never use the AD, when you need it, right? And so I just want to say that like if it's a cost thing, there are ways around the cost sometimes as well. To get back to your question though, from a strength and conditioning standpoint, I think it's like very similar to the nutrition thing. I think that previously you and I, if you're the offensive lineman and I'm the midfielder on the soccer team, I think you and I were doing the same workouts at some point, right? And I think that some of the pitfalls we see at any level is that those two vastly different athletes are doing the same type of strength training and the same type of running workouts, and we probably need different, more customized programs depending on what our requirements are for our sport. And so I think that in being able to like have that knowledge or lean on an athletic trainer or a certified strength conditioning coach to ensure that I get the right training program as an endurance athlete and you get the right program as an anaerobic like strength athlete is really important to prevent injuries, to make sure that you're fit for your position. I think that's really helpful.
I can only share a personal personal experience from my son, who was a collegiate athlete. But the difference between the approach in high school and the approach in college was exponential.
Oh yeah.
Like his coach in college, and again, he's an exceptional winning coach. And he was a distance runner, so cross country and distance track. It was so scientific.
Yeah.
Everything right down to the tapering towards the end of the season so that you can get your PR, right?
Yeah.
Whereas high school was like, let's go run, 5 miles a day.
Yeah.
And so, gosh, what would it take to get more advanced knowledge for high school coaching levels? Or is that kind of like a a fantasy.
Yeah,
I mean, was it your experience too? I mean, you went to two great schools, but I would imagine.
I think that it's
Gannon was pretty advanced. I would think.
I think that like from high school to college, I think you're right. I think as a generalization, those like skill sets and like the resources available increase, right? I think that there's certainly exceptions, though. I think that they are at the high school level some places, right? I think they're probably a little bit more sports specific depending on the knowledge of the person being involved. One of the high schools I covered the last 5 years, the 3 of the track cross-country coaches were physical therapists. One was a strength and conditioning coach.
Oh, my God. They
and
literally
all 4 were like world-class runners. They're all like
Seriously.
running in the Boston Marathon, times that don't make any sense to the rest of us.
And did those kids just kill? I mean, did they
they have a very
outperform?
successful program.
Yeah.
But also they had, I think, the things to make things full circle. They had the resources and support to know when somebody wasn't doing well and when to reach out for help, right? And so I knew that if I was getting a phone call from one of those coaches, that there's a problem, right? That they've already been taken care of by a physical therapist, a strength and conditioning coach who's also an amazing athlete and runner has been going through this process, and they maybe know a little bit more with that background that when someone's complaining about has a certain complaint or running into a certain issue, like that's a red flag and that's a hard stop, and they can like help them through some of those programs. And so, I think that those are, I don't think that's a normal thing to have though, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's necessarily like a financial thing, right? I think that sometimes that's incidental, right? That's somebody who graduated from that high school program, is in the community, is passionate about running and enjoys doing it, right? Because I mean, I could be wrong. If they're listening in Iowa, I don't think they're getting paid a lot of money to do that, right? That was like pure passion and interest in mentoring like young athletes. And so I think that the more people that are subject matter experts and are great athletes or have some of those skill sets as their occupation or their recreational habits, being able to like convince or get them interested in mentorship and coaching would be the way around that, right?
Yeah, absolutely here. So I gotta bring this plane in for a landing with Dr. Susmarski. If folks wanted, if a coach is listening or a school administrator is listening or a parent, if they wanted to find out more or just kind of bend your ear a little bit, how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, our contact information is on the website for our sports medicine clinic, and so I think calling the clinic is great. My email and cell phone is not as much of a secret as maybe it should be, and so I'm certainly available. But I also think that some of the things we run into in sports is sometimes people are hesitant to come in because they're not sure if they have a problem or not, or they're not sure if it's a big deal or not, and then they want to make sure they're not. I sometimes get like, I feel like I'm wasting your time, but I have these issues, and I think that probably 9 out of 10 times is not wasting my time. I'd love, just like I don't mind, we could sit here and talk for 2 hours. I could sit in the clinic and talk to you about whatever your questions are about your specific sport, or how you can like improve your performance, or whether things that you're feeling or experiencing are normal or abnormal, what you can push through and what can't be pushed through. And so I think that if you have any question or concern, or you're not even sure if it's a question or a concern, that give us a call and come down and talk to us.
Yeah, LECOM, Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. One last question.
Yes.
Give a word of encouragement to that injured player. Heck, they might be a senior in high school. This is their senior year. They're the volleyball person that, whatever. And they're in therapy. They're in physical therapy. They're trying to come back. Give them some encouragement to kind of stay the course with their therapy and what have you.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most like challenging things about sports medicine is that sometimes you get like really involved and close to a lot of the athletes, and from like the high school, college, or even the Olympic level, you spend some time with people and watch them develop, and then finally it's their time to shine, right? And then they end up with an injury or an illness. And I think that helping them, being in part of sports medicine, any part of that multifactional group that we talked about, being part of that group and being supportive for them, and then making sure they have all the right resources and being a positive resource for them is like integral for them to help get back to doing that, and ensuring that like while it seems like the end of the road, making sure that you're like keeping up with your rehab and making sure you're doing all the things we talked about with your nutrition, your strength and conditioning programs, your medical rehabilitation, so that we can get you back as soon as possible is important. But it's hard. It's definitely a mental. It's a tough situation to be in. It's hard to watch people in some of that scenarios, especially with the caveat that you made when it's like senior year or it's like in the middle of the season.
But you're only 18. You have maybe
80
years ahead of you.
Yeah.
70 years ahead of you. think about that.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be limping the rest of your life.
That's right. Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Adam Susmarski, LECOM Health, Orthopedic and Sports Medicine, and go Ramblers, and all the other teams have a successful and injury-free season. Back after this.